We need to talk about Manuel Ugarte because this whole situation has gone too far and I really don't understand it. I feel like the way some fans have got at him is weird. It's not right. I think it's horrid. I'm going to be completely honest. We're going to talk about the situation and the whole Ugarte thing. We're also going to talk about some news coming out from Laurie Whitwell about Manchester United looking to change the wage structure to avoid the Luke Shaw sort of Mason Mount kind of issues and why that's really good. Mainoo, a new contract. Mainoo getting stick as well from people. We're going to talk about all the latest United news. This lighting makes me look so pale. I don't know what it is, but hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about transfer news because we're being linked to the Royal Antwerp keeper again, we're being linked to Tyler Dibling, we're being linked to Chris Rigg, and then you get the odd random link like a Xavi Simmers, and then the daily Ostenham links and your Yildiz links, but there's nothing that's just new. I feel like it's repetitive stuff. There's a story today saying that Angel Gomez is in conversations with us, but I don't think there's much truth in that. Being honest, there's a lot of just transfer rubbish at the moment. I'm kind of fed up of talking about transfers, so we're going to talk about United and actual changes going on. But first of all, we've got to talk about this Ugarte situation. So, Manuel Ugarte posted this. This is him at Uruguay, and this is him with oxygen after, because he played at ridiculously high altitude. And then all the comments were, leave my club, leave. Do not go back to Carrington, retire. Please leave. What? First of all, why is it stick all of a sudden? Because I think Ugarte's had a decent season. He's not been record-breaking 10 out of 10, but he's one of those players that I feel like he's not a 10 out of 10, but you know you're going to get a 7 out of 10 most games from him. One thing Ugarte brings is legs, ground coverage, athleticism, and that's something we lack in the squad. So when Ugarte is injured, we notice it. We need either one of Ugarte or Collier to ideally play every game to help us with the legs. So first of all, my first thought is, why is everybody all of a sudden getting angry at Ugarte and telling Ugarte to leave? And it's because he didn't have a very good game for Uruguay against Bolivia. But let's be honest, was Ugarte the worst player on the pitch for Uruguay? No. Everyone at Uruguay was poor. But second of all, as Frank said here, before you jump to troll Ugarte over a bad performance, maybe realise the conditions both teams were facing. El Alto Stadium is 4,150 metres above sea level, and players had to use oxygen bottles during the match. There's clips of them having to use oxygen bottles. Now, the home team, Bolivia, will be more used to that because they're used to living at that altitude and their body has adapted. I don't think people understand what altitude can do, especially 4,150 meters above sea level. Your oxygen levels go down. It's crazy what altitude can do, and they're going to feel more lightheaded. They're going to be altitude sickness. You cannot be your best playing at that altitude unless you've had time to adapt. So if you're going to pick on Ugarte for a poor performance, why are you picking a game where at that height, oxygen levels are about 60% of the sea level? So 60%, not 100%, 60%. Players not used to it can suffer from fatigue, shortness of breath, dizziness, lightheadedness. It will cause a decline in athletic performance because, the VO2 max is going to go down. The sprinting, the pressing is going to be harder. Coordination, decision-making can suffer due to hypoxia. People can get altitude sickness if they descend or rise too quickly. Even the ball will move faster at that height because the air is thinner. And there's the mental effects of all of that. It's going to be slower recovery after the game, the fatigue. To play at that height, you need to arrive at least a week and spend a week adapting to that height. Because if he's only there for a couple of days, which he was, he's not going to adjust to playing at that altitude. So, first of all, we shouldn't be giving Ugarte a stick for a bad game against Bolivia. Second of all, why is Ugarte getting the stick regardless of that bad game? Ugarte's been good for us. Ugarte, didn't play much at the start of the season, then Tenal got sacked, then played 10 games in a row where he was just ridiculously good for us, had a couple man of the matches in big games, then got injured, then came back for a couple of games and he wasn't as good, and I don't think he was fully fit, then got injured again, then came back for a few games, put in some top performances, and then he sort of missed a little bit lately. I don't know where the Ugarte hate's coming from. You know, I could name 10 players that have had a worse season than Ugarte for us, but yet Ugarte's got to go, Ugarte leave. I get he's not technically the best player. I get he has limitations on the ball, but Ugarte does not deserve this kind of abuse. It's ridiculous. He's not even been bad. He's not even a bad player. Ugarte has been solid. 6.5 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Ugarte's maybe had 2 bad games for Man United. Okay, where he's not even been fully fit. And we're giving him stick. Like, seriously, guys. Seriously. What, like, it's embarrassing look for the fan base. It's embarrassing. You know, the amount of stick that certain players in our fan base get after one bad game. They could have 10 good games, they have one bad game and everyone turns on them. The reactionariness, it's embarrassing. You know, I'm hearing people say that Mainoo's rubbish because he's been out injured this season. I'm hearing people saying that Euro's rubbish because they judged him off the one game versus Southampton, but not the last 4 games where he's shown progress and been good. And also the fact that he's a 19-year-old kid. You know, Xerxes, the hate he got after 3 months. We need to realise that this is a new league, a new environment. These are young players adapting to new stuff, and give them a bit of patience and time. And I think Ugarte has been one of our better players this season. So I really don't like the stick and the way that people are treating Ugarte. I think it's horrible. I think it's pretty vile that people are literally telling Ugarte to leave the club. Like, seriously, you think Ugarte should leave the club? I could name 10 players that should leave this club before Manuel Ugarte. Manuel Ugarte may have limitations, but he's important. Big games, he showed up and showed his importance. So, I can't get my head around it. Continuing on. Wages will be a central issue in United's transfer plan. The board is trying to exercise restraint with new signings and is determined to ensure those who are well paid are able to play regularly. So this is a story by Laurie Whitwell. He said United wants to avoid high-wage earners sidelined for extended periods. The club has made fitness a priority for new signings. This follows Surgeon Ratcliffe's statement that the wage bill of players at the manager's disposal, including injured and loanees, was the equivalent of a mid-table team. Now, let's talk about this. So this is Laurie Whitwell. Laurie Whitwell was an incredible journalist. Definitely go check out everything he said on The Athletic. He's spoken about wages being something that United want to sort, which makes 100% sense. It's a big issue. Our wage structure is a mess. Just to show you something, I think it's less because we're not in the Champions League this year. So I think they took a 25% cut. But according to online sources, 20 million a year for these two. 20 million a year. And Luke Shaw hasn't started a Premier League game in over a year. Mason Mount hasn't played 90 minutes this season, I don't think. 20 million a year for those two. And this is why. So Laurie Whitwell obviously speaks that United want to address this whole wage situation. The board obviously knows that when they sign new players, they're only going to give you high wages if you've got a good fitness record, you're going to play every week, week in, week out, and you are somewhat deserving of those high wages, like a Bruno Fernandes. You know, if you're a Mason Mount or Luke Shaw, they're not going to sit there and think, yeah, we'll give you high wages to not play. United want to avoid being in a situation where the highest earners at the club are sidelined for extended periods constantly. Fitness is a new priority. Now, there was actually a report a couple months ago that Manchester United were looking into doing some data-driven approach to predict injuries and patterns in players and do a lot of injury prevention work in new signings. And that's something that we definitely need to work on. Obviously, it's hard to predict a lot of that stuff. But I like Metro, and I think Metro would be a good sign for United. But then I look at his injury record and I'm saying, no, can't do that. We need to look at players' injury record and be more into it. And I think Yoro didn't have any injury issues before United. Ugarte didn't. Obviously, De Ligt did and Mancharawi did. And we've been really lucky that they haven't had any issues. Xerxes hasn't had any issues, which is good. But we definitely need to look at players as well. We need players that are going to be available for a good price. Well, we can get them on a good wage. They're not injury prone. They're going to go into the team because the wage bill at this club is a mess. The current players available is the same wage bill as a mid-table team. I like that Dorgu's got lower wages. Xerxes got lower wages. All the new signings that came in, obviously De Ligt, because of his history and the wages he's at other clubs, pretty much were on very reasonable wages and quite easy to sell wages, which is good. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about Kobbie Mainoo because obviously there's rumours that he's asking for 200k a week. Belief increasing that a compromise can be reached with Kobbie Mainoo over a new deal. Now, believe it or not, Kobbie Mainoo was never asking for 200k a week. That was made up by the media, and reliable sources confirm Mainoo was not asking for that amount. Mainoo obviously will ask for as much as he can get. Why wouldn't he? But he will make a compromise with United, and it's expected that Mainoo will sign a new deal. Now, I've seen a lot of people saying, sell Mainoo, he's not very good, he's not worth it. And again, a 19-year-old kid. a 19-year-old kid, that's breakout season was the best breakout season I'd seen in a long time from a kid at Manchester United. Honestly, fantastic his breakout season. Like the fact that the debut versus Everton, the goal versus Wolves, the performance versus Liverpool in the FA Cup, the performance in the FA Cup final, the Euro semi-final performance was against the Netherlands. Like, incredible. And this is what I said. Recency bias is such a weird thing in football. Suddenly people are saying Mainoo is crap. Why? Because he's been injured most of the season. Because a lot of the time when he has played, he's not been fit. As well. He has potential to be elite. He was man of the match in the FA Cup final, dropped a 10 out of 10 against Liverpool last season, started for England at the Euros. What he did at 18 last season was nothing short of incredible. He's a fantastic talent, someone you build a team around. Sure, he's had the odd bad game, and yes, he struggled with fitness this season, but easily a top 5 talent in the world. If you play for Madrid or Barcelona, the perception would be different. It's normal to have bad games at young. It's just normal to have inconsistencies, be able to adapt to a system. But all of a sudden, Mainoo's trash. All of a sudden, we don't like a guy because we'll go off 2 or 3 of the most recent games when they've been injured as well. Seriously, people, we need to do better. We can criticise the player, but we need to stop writing them off after like one game. Like, let's be patient. Let's get behind them.